I was born and brought up in Mumbai, and actually, I'm a second generation Mumbaikar. My dad was born and brought up here, and I feel sometimes, okay, that if you've grown up in a city by the sea, you can't help but be open. You can't help but be open to influences, ideas, inspirations, and I think somehow that gets hardwired into your being. You're a Lucknow boy, but very much a Mumbai man these days. What's your take on this ge- big geographical shift you've made from Lucknow to Mumbai?
I still feel like an outsider in Bombay, though it will be
What?
20 years now for
But
me.
Bombay doesn't keep you feeling like an outsider.
No, this is the thing with big cities. I believe they make you feel you belong
Hmm.
on day one itself and never belong on day 20 year also. So there's that paradox going. That is one. Second, philosophically on some level for me it is very important as an artist to feel like an outsider so I can comment on the city.
Paradox, philosophy, insider, outsider. Let's keep talking, Varun.
Chaliye.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad that you've tuned in because you believe that it is important to keep talking. And today, the guest I have for you is someone who's mastered the art of conversation. He's got the gift of the gab, and over the years has become very, very popular, not least because he leads a bunch of stand-up comics and comedians who have over the years become our collective conscience, actually filled in the big hole that's left by mainstream media that's reneged on its pact with the people. Varun? So I was thinking, given the news of the State Bank of India's wanting more time to furnish electoral bonds, and given that they have featured in Hukum Singh,
Yeah.
do you have a new joke?
Oh God. No, I don't have. I think the entire thing is a joke. The way it has been going and the way various agencies and the media have, as you said, have kind of broken the contract they had with the public and broken the contract they had with human conscience in a way. So, उस सब के बीच में it's quite funny. There are already so many jokes floating around that State Bank ने जो दिया है. First of all, I read they've given it on a pen drive. I don't. I'm just happy they didn't give it on a floppy drive. Pen drive फिर भी है उनके पास. Floppy पे भी दे सकते थे. CD पे दे सकते थे.
So basically, there is a lot of material for you,
it's a
and
lot
the
of
next
material.
gag or thing that you want to write.
Yeah, State Bank. I mean, if you go, you have been to my first account. All of us probably have had their first accounts in state banks as students. हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी में स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया का ही ब्रांच था. तो वहाँ पे वो पेन भी बांध के रखा होता है एक चेन से. It's a special chain. I don't know which company has been given the contract of making these chains to tie up the pens and all. और फिर भी तोड़ा के लोग ले जाते थे. So they were right in that suspicion कि कोई पेन चुरा लेगा. So yeah, and they have been entrusted with the job of keeping thousands of crores का हिसाब किताब and to share it. I don't know.
So basically, State Bank has inspired you in the past, and it continues to inspire you, give you more fodder.
Till one of us kind of stops existing on this planet. Let's see who is first.
You know, media has reneged on its pact with people. And when I say media, I know that I'm using it very loosely, but mainstream media, for a large part, has abdicated its responsibility, which is to hold power to account.
Yeah.
And worse still, is now collaborating with those in power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What is it? Why is it that we have seen comedy and stand-up comedians, people like you, come in to fill this gap?
बहुत सोचा है मैंने. Is it okay if I switch to Hindi बीच में?
Totally. I would
Okay.
love to do it myself, but since I'm a Mumbaikar, my
अच्छा.
Hindi makes me sound like I'm a Bandra Goan
Okay,
in a
but
70s film.
You are living in Mahim.
Yeah, but you
In,
know what I mean. So
yeah.
I'm very embarrassed by it. I want
Okay.
to sound like Rekha sounds in उमराव जान.
ओह,
Yeah.
क्या बात है.
तो
अच्छा.
वो तो नहीं हो पाती है क्योंकि मेरा काकी भी इधर उधर चले जाता है. So
हाँ, वो नहीं हो पाता है.
And then you don't want to sound so bad,
Yeah.
right?
नहीं, ठीक है, तो मैं हिंदी में बोल सकता हूँ
Please.
बीच में. तो मुझे बहुत बार ये सवाल मेरे अंदर आता है कि मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ.
क्यों कर रहा है?
3-4 शायद रीजन है. एक तो ये है, सबसे पहला, सबसे बेसिक, प्योर ह्यूमन डिजायर. मजा आता है, बहुत मजा आता है. ठीक है, उसके बाद
और बहुत फॉडर है यहाँ पे, बहुत मटेरियल भी मिलता है.
इतना सारा मटेरियल है. इट्स काइंड ऑफ इजी टू मेक जोक्स एट दिस पॉइंट, जस्ट फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ writing them.
Sure.
Okay, performing them, taking the repercussions and all, that is the difficult part.
Yeah.
I'll come to that later. तो पहला ये है कि मजा आता है. दूसरा ये है, I constantly keep asking myself, who am I defending? Am I defending someone? Am I protecting someone? Am I fighting for someone? Am I fighting for, let's say, you know, some political party which is in the opposition, which people accuse me a lot of. पैसा दिया होगा आपको, कांग्रेस ने पैसा दिया होगा. नहीं है, पहली बात तो उनके पास पैसा ही नहीं है. पैसा होता तो वहां नहीं होते जहां भी वो हैं. और हमको देने के लिए तो बिल्कुल नहीं है, अपने लिए नहीं उनके
शायद आप हो.
उनके पास भी मेरे ख्याल से जिसके पास भी इस समय पैसा होना चाहिए उसके पास नहीं है, और जिसके पास नहीं होना चाहिए उसके पास बहुत सारा है. SBI बताएगा. लेकिन तो मैं किसके लिए कर रहा हूँ? Am I doing it for the voiceless or underprivileged? Again, you know, I don't want to assume that responsibility कि मैं किसी को बचा रहा हूँ या किसी के लिए बोल रहा हूँ. तो मैं किस लिए बोल रहा हूँ? मैं उन चीज़ों के लिए बोल रहा हूँ जो मेरे लिए मैटर करती हैं. I am only speaking for myself and things I believe in, and that's why I could be wrong sometimes. Sometimes I could believe in wrong things and then later realize कि okay ये गलत था. या
ऐसे हुआ है पहले? This
idea which is given to all the Savarna kids that reservation is bad. So there was a point till probably
where you resented reservation क्योंकि आपका pool छोटा होता था, right? Because of the reservation.
I was constantly being told by the society and, you know, by family and everyone that reservations are bad and, you know, the reservation is taking away your chunk. So that is one idea which I, you know, when I look back at myself from early years of college, maybe first year in college, second year in college, I can see I was totally flawed and, you know, that was a completely wrong argument which was fed to me. But I stand for ideas. I do it for ideas I believe in, and because I believe people, okay, there are people who can't really fight for themselves, but still they are people, they are real things. They can probably fight someday with enough resources. Ideas are the most defenseless things.
Ideas are the most defenseless thing. So this is really to protect ideas.
Yeah, to protect ideas that have brought us here, not just me, brought humanity here. And the ideas, I'm talking about the ideas of general, very broad progressive ideology, and as people say, the arc of you know, justice over a long period of time turns towards fairness, and you know, all that is true because the arc of progressiveness has been right through the centuries, and that's why we are here. That's why we are sitting here having this conversation. Otherwise, we would still have been in dark ages, or we would still be, you know, being ruled by some king or queens, and you know, there are no rights. तो धीरे धीरे चीजें सुधर रही हैं. तो वो किस वजह से सुधरी हैं? वो आइडियाज की वजह से सुधरी हैं.
ये तो आपकी बात रही. आपका बात?
आपकी बात.
So ये आपकी बात रही. You know, but इतने सारे stand-up comedians जो आपके friends हैं, are you saying that this is the same thought that guides a lot of the people who you're friends with and who are doing socio-political?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. क्योंकि कॉमेडी जो अभी का जो सीन है, कॉमेडी इज अ वेरी न्यू आर्ट फॉर्म इन इंडिया. 10 साल 12 साल.
But you wouldn't believe it, right? To see कि इतने सारे लोग कर रहे हैं. टिकटॉक था पहले, अब इंस्टा पे. I mean, you guys are the breakout superstars, right? In the past decade ये हुआ है.
Yeah.
But अब तो हर जगह से comedian निकल रहा है.
हाँ,
If you go by
कॉमेडी
reels.
के साथ एक और थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल जवाब है मेरा, बट so there are incentives inbuilt into the art form.
What do you mean?
So, for example, सिनेमा के अंदर incentive है to reach more people. Okay, that is the incentive people chase.
Yeah.
So then they'll
Maximum audience,
tell the
maximum
story
impact.
which is understood by most people, which resonates with most people.
Sure.
In stand-up comedy, the inherent incentive is to say stuff which is not being allowed to say. So automatically, the incentive is either to be rude. Sometimes rude, insult comedy is a form of comedy just because of that. Because
the roast.
Yeah, the roast. It is a full-fledged form inside comedy, a subgenre of comedy, which flourishes simply because they say stuff which is not generally, you won't see that thing being said on stage about people, and some of it is politically very wrong, and still people laugh just because it is forbidden.
It's saying the unsaid. It's being politically as incorrect as you can.
Yes, so exactly for the same reason. So people expect stand-up comedians to say stuff which is not being allowed to say. And right now, in the last 10 years, we all know what is not being allowed to be said. And automatically, then there is an incentive to be politically aware. And that becomes sometimes that becomes your strength, that becomes your whatever genre you love playing, and people love you for that, because stand-up comedy doesn't need 30 crore collections or 100 crore collections. So we are not catering to everyone's tastes. We are saying we will be talking only about that 10%, let's say, who are right now
10%
feeling.
10% in 1.4 billion mein is in millions, right? Hundreds of millions.
It is way more than 10%. It's just that because we have a system, electoral system, which is first past the post, so it can be 50% also. The incentive comes from the art form itself. The art form itself says if you say stuff which is not allowed, you will be rewarded. That's all. That's stand-up comedy at a very basic level. So then automatically you'll have more progressive stuff in stand-up comedy. Automatically you'll have more political awareness in stand-up comedy. Just like news media, the mainstream media, the incentive to spread awareness has gone. It's not a financial incentive right now. In fact, the opposite is true, where the more you cater to the
establishment,
so you'll be rewarded more. तो इसलिए उन्होंने वो चुन लिया है. एक जमाना था जब वो नहीं था, जब लोगों की आवाज पहुंचाने के लिए आपको वो इंसेंटिव था और उसकी वजह से आप पॉपुलर होते थे. अब ठीक उसका उल्टा हो गया है. So they have just chosen that. Stand-up comedy may be, just because it is comedy, there is no way you can keep praising someone and find comedy out of that. You can't do that. So you have to critique. And the critique is always of power. You can't critique someone who is not in power.
How can you critique the underdog, right? David को कोई ना critique करे. It's Goliath always, right?
तो automatically वो हो ही नहीं सकता है. इसलिए भी stand-up comedy में ये ज़्यादा, and even if there is someone who is not, let's say, political in that sense, in talking about establishment, but all kind of stand-up comedy. If there are 5 or 6 good queer comedians in India, they are not talking about politics, but they are talking about their identity, which is also a kind of a strong political statement. Or there are so many female stand-up comedians who are talking about their stories, which have never been heard.
You know, your Kaagaz nahin dikhayenge became such an anthem. Right? Became an anthem of sorts.
Even SBI is using this now.
Good one. That's a good one. So Kaagaz nahi dikhayenge became an anthem of sorts in 2019. Okay? Around this time of the year, December actually, because that's when the anti-CAA protests were at its peak, and linked with it the protest against NRC, etc. 2024, we're headed into another election. 2024 March actually, very close to the next election. ये जो एक प्रोटेस्ट था, ये जो एक यूथ फ्यूल्ड प्रोटेस्ट था, which we saw in 19, we are not really seeing it that much now. Do you have a sense of why that is? Like,
काफी in the last 5 years we have seen the systemic muzzling of voices very actively by the establishment. We know, I mean, they tried to spread fear and they have succeeded a lot. That is one major reason I feel. The first time when the protests happened, the CAA plus NRC was a big issue.
Exactly.
Right now, they've announced only CAA, which is okay, giving refugee status to people who need it. And I think a lot of whatever experts are saying, okay, CAA on its own
it's not really changing the situation, but it's a statement, a political narrative.
It is a political narrative, which, I mean, we know. I mean, it's not like we don't know.
Because the law was passed a long time back, right? And the notification has happened just now. So we understand.
So we know the prejudices of the establishment without CAA also, right? Without them notifying it. So they are just saying, okay, this is whatever, you already had these 10 kinds of items in our thali, we are adding one more, and that's all. As long as it is not harming the harm they were trying to bring in through NRC, I think that...
So that's the trigger. I'm saying there's nothing else on which this kind of collective, young, youth-led concern is emerging this year.
मेरे पास एक analogy, visual metaphor जैसा है, that you know, if you are trying to repair things in India right now, if you are someone who wants to make things better, तो it's like right now आप एक बहुत बड़ा एक जो shed सोच लो, बहुत बड़ा गोडाउन है या कुछ एक shed है और huge studio floor, almost like you know how Hollywood के huge studios, और उसकी छत है और उसकी छत में और बहुत तेज बारिश हो रही है और उसकी छत में हर 10 फीट पे एक छेद है और पानी गिर रहा है, आपके पास एक बाल्टी है. You keep running from one issue to another. You're like, अच्छा थोड़ा इसको बचा लूं, थोड़ा उसको बचा लूं. So there are people who dedicate all their lives to only one issue, and they are like, okay, someone like say Bezwada Wilson, you know, he's like, okay, I'm focusing on this, and I'll take care of this. And then there are people who are, you know, who are constantly like, okay, I'll take care of this.
Mangroves, Mumbai के mangroves बचा रहे हैं, है ना?
हाँ, so there's so many things you can improve right now that is also, so that kind of exhaustion plus sometimes focus has also set in, I believe.
Okay, let us move out of this into something that has been a passion project with you for a very, very long time, and that is your movie. And you made your debut. I went and saw All India Rang. It gives you, or it presents another way of being, another way of seeing. At this time, another way of seeing is very, very useful. So that's my quick take. But my question, I can see you say, सवाल पे आओ, ये तो event हो गया है जब लोग बोलते हैं कि I'm going to ask you a question and then it becomes my opinion, and then the opinion and the moderator will say, but what's the question? So my question is, it seems to be, and you've said that it's autobiographical, semi-autobiographical. I'm not interested in that young boy so much as I'm interested in the father. You know, the father's character and the father's arc and where he goes from what his dreams are and his hopes are and what he ends up accepting that they can be. Is it personal? Is this about your father? In a way?
No, in a way, yes. In a way, about all the fathers of that particular generation who went to college in 60s or early 70s and started working in a government job in late 70s, early 80s kind of an era. So for me, it was very important to go to the origin of this success industry we have in India right now. There's this hysteria level chasing of success, be it in any field. So for me, it was very important to go to the origin, and that origin lies in our parents' generation, the generation that started working in a government job in the 80s, and kind of made peace with that. Initially they were like, okay, this is how life is. How they were told that all the 30 40 initial 30 40 years of post independence India were a failure in their head, and that became a failure in their head only because the liberalization came. With that, a new politics also came roughly at the same time, and they kind of connected these two together, that this is the new India and that was the India which was a failed India, which didn't give us anything. That persecution complex is a story for me. It's a story of India in the last 70 years. The same persecution complex which is being now exploited by all the political powers, and being told that you deserved this but you did not get it because someone else stole it from you. तो वो कहानी है जो हमको 70 साल नहीं, वो मतलब 1000 साल पुरानी कहानी हमको बताई जा रही है कि 1000 साल पहले ये हुआ था. फिर उसके बाद जब आज़ादी मिली तो फिर नेहरू आ गए, उन्होंने भी ये कर दिया और इसने भी ये कर दिया. So I wanted to go to that, and yes, for that the father's character and his journey was very important because it originates from that generation.
And it is the coming of age of Vivek.
Yeah.
But it is also the coming of age of his father.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a way, in a real sense.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the first log line I wrote for the film was exactly this: the coming of age of the parents and the son during that 1 year of separation.
IIT prep.
Yeah.
What I also find interesting is that once you've written you had a story that you've held dear for a very long time, you've written a script that you've gone and registered, you have then called, reached out, whatever, used your fame as a lyricist and a writer and your stand-up comedy audience. You've got the money to make the film. Now it's out there. I'm talking about the father, somebody's talking about the son, somebody's talking about IIT, somebody's talking about success. The movie is now ours. How do you feel about all these various interpretations and then critiques that may come out of it? And critique doesn't mean bad or good, just critique.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that? Do you feel happy that somebody gets exactly what you wanted or wanted to say? Or do you feel excited that somebody is interpreting it in a way that you didn't think of? Or does that frustrate you because it makes you feel कि यार ये तो मैंने नहीं, this is not what I wanted to say.
So all interpretation, as long as people are interacting with the film,
you're happy.
Yeah, I'm happy. थोड़ा एक तो emotional detachment जरूरी है मेरे लिए, just for my own mental health also, and to move on to other stuff also. So practically also. Second, that is how I have seen films over the years. I'm a film buff before anything else, before a writer or a filmmaker or a stand-up comedian. I am here because I loved cinema.
So it was in the theaters for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And now will be on a streaming platform soon?
It will be on Netflix.
On Netflix. Are you satisfied with the commercial response? Because that will determine your ability to make the next one, isn't it?
Yeah. So for the kind of release we got, it was a very limited release. It was, again, because our system is like that. System is where there are no faces in the film. That's what they say, as if they are ghosts in the film. But they say कि face नहीं है film में. तो जो system है, उस हिसाब से हमको वो release नहीं मिला, which I wanted. I wanted, even if a limited release are like 2-3 tiers of limited release, like a 500 screen or a 350 screen or a, so we got like the bare minimum kind of a thing, 100-120 screens. अभी मतलब ये था कि जहाँ फिल्म लगी हुई है जिस थिएटर में, उस थिएटर के बाहर भी PVR में there was not a single banner of the film, because के भी अलग पैसे लगते हैं, and we didn't have the budget to put that. So everyone who went to see the film
Went
actually
because they knew you and
Yeah,
heard it from
and
you.
went fully knowing they're going to watch that film. No one walked into the theater like, okay, आज कुछ देखते हैं, अच्छा ये देख लेते हैं. There was no way they would know that film is playing there. So given that, I think we did very good commercially in the kind of per screen एक जो count होता है, per screen admission होता है, that was very good. That was on par with other, good films, whatever commercially successful films. We didn't get that. So I don't know how industry will interpret that. Will that be seen as a commercial failure or a success, or I don't know. And having made one film now, I don't care now.
Does that mean you don't care because you don't want to make any more? Or you...
No. Now I know the system way better.
Right.
So I know I'll do a better job in terms of playing the system, however it is played. But I know I can do a better job next time, not just from the filmmaking point of view, which that will depend on the kind of story and other resources, but getting the film out to more number of people. Now I know a few things which I
But
didn't know.
in the process of marketing All India Rank, you also suddenly became Mumbai's voice, right? You Gokhale Bridge wala bahut quote ho raha hai aajkal.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, though I've been performing that for like since September. So I'm shocked actually कि वो September में
but the gap is not from September.
The gap has been from a year ago. So they found. So मैंने ये 1 साल पहले न्यूज पढ़ी थी, 1 साल पहले कि ये गैप होने वाला है, और मैंने ये सितंबर से परफॉर्म हाँ, मैंने ये सितंबर से परफॉर्म करना शुरू किया ये वाला स्टैंड अप कि वो गैप होने वाला है. व्हेन इट ओपन्स देयर विल बी अ गैप, एंड आई नेवर बिलीव्ड कि वो मैं सितंबर से जब मैं उस पे जोक बना रहा हूँ, सो एवरीवन नोज इट वाज आउट इन द मीडिया, दे वुड रिपेयर इट एंड देन ओपन. नो, they still went
but I
ahead.
think the brazenness of not fixing it.
Yeah, they knew for a year at least.
Yeah.
So I was shocked. So I was like कि मैं वो रेडी रखा हुआ था मैंने अपना स्टैंड अप कि मैं ये डाल दूंगा, एंड देन आई read the news they are opening it in 3 days. I was like अरे तो ये मेरा स्टैंड अप हाँ वेस्ट हो जाएगा अगर मैंने अभी नहीं डाला, क्योंकि वो खुल जाएगा and they would have covered up the gap. That's what I was hoping.
That's the logical thought.
Yeah, and then I put it out and then the same day it opened. वो एडिट करने में मेरे को 2-3 दिन लग गए, और जब तक खुला मैंने फिर न्यूज पढ़ा कि ये तो इन्होंने नहीं ठीक किया है. Like, so good for me, but horrible for me as a citizen of the city. So good for me just as a stand-up comedian, which doesn't help me.
We'll never stop getting material, right, in India. It's just the way we are at some level. But
yeah, it's unreal. This is the financial capital of India, and we have this bizarre thing going.
What's the biggest kick? Given that in the past 10 years, your life has changed dramatically, isn't it? You wanted to make movies, then you came into this industry, then you started writing, you wrote songs, then you wrote a series, then you show ran it, then you became a filmmaker, you became a stand-up comedian. You suddenly are this popular guy. What the hell is happening, and what are you making of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just, almost, I'm in a theme park. I like exploring various media to express myself. So apart from whatever stand-up comedy, lyrics writing, film writing and direction, I'm actually, the stuff I enjoy a lot is writing poetry and fiction for children. So I have a book out which is just short stories for children. There are books of poetry for children. So that is something which I really enjoy. So expressing myself when a new idea comes and finding the best medium for that, that okay, this can be a joke, this can be a story, this can be whatever, a song.
Yeah.
No, so वो बहुत मजा आता है मुझे. और दूसरा, it's almost like it's a I don't know, that's how people become workaholics or something, but it's something which I don't do, I feel suffocated. If there is an idea, if I don't write it, I'll feel like okay, there's something stuck in my throat and I have to.
And is that what is powering, driving creativity where you're concerned? Like, what is the reason or source? Because this is being creative, right?
But
So it's coming
for
from
an
the fact that you
outsider
have to say
perspective,
something.
yes, this is me being creative. But for me, this is me surviving. So that is
Nice.
probably the difference.
That's well said. I'm going to let it be here.
Yeah.
We'll keep talking. And but I think before I let it be, I was looking at my nails and I was looking at yours.
Yeah.
Like, lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love nail paint. I love, looking at my hands. And people have told me, and I think I agree with them that
You have nice hands.
Yeah.
Hey, vanity na.
हाँ,
Okay, we are going to keep
बाकी
talking.
कुछ नहीं.
See you. We'll keep talking.
Yeah.
So vanity.
I don't know. मतलब मुझे
I have
बाकी
nice hands. Yeah, who has told you to have nice hands? Because it sounds like something a romantic
no,
kind
lot
of
of
thing.
people.
Random
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
telling
no.
you what are your like.